They deleted me while smiling for the camera. I didn't scream, I uploaded. The kitchen lights were warm, the laughter soft, the filters flawless. I watched it all from the same couch they used to sit on beside me. My wife, talking about boundaries. My daughter, laughing like I was a joke they'd outgrown. My son, filming the whole thing like content was more real than blood. No one said my name, but I was everywhere in that absence. They called it peace, healing, a family reset, but they built it out of me, cutting my shape out of the frame like I was static. They thought I'd disappear quietly. They didn't know I'd go live. Grayson Crowley turned 41 with a mug of lukewarm coffee in one hand and a stale cinnamon waffle in the other, staring at a frozen terminal screen in his cluttered home office. The glow from 3 monitors spilled across his face, drawing hard shadows under his eyes. Outside, rain hissed gently against the roof tiles of their Chicago suburb house, the same way it had for days. Quiet, steady, like background noise you don't hear until it's gone. The living room behind him was silent. No footsteps, no voices, just the soft hum of the router he'd mounted himself last winter. His headset lay untouched beside him. No meetings today, no calls either. He checked his phone. Still no texts. Not from Livia, not from Delia, not from Sem. Not even a perfunctory auto-generated card or a half-hearted meme. He'd been telling himself they were planning something. Maybe a cake after dinner. Balloons, even. That tiny flicker of hope he hadn't allowed himself in years. Just a little. It had wormed its way in. He sighed and walked into the hallway. Livia's coat was gone. Her earthy sandalwood perfume lingered faintly in the air, mixed with the lemon from her overpriced diffuser. Delia's door was closed. From inside, faint thumps of music with too much bass, too little soul. Sem's room was dark, probably asleep again at noon, or logged into some NFT group chat with guys who called each other king and never blinked. Grayson wandered into the kitchen. Empty sink. No movement. The fridge was bare except for almond milk, chia pudding, and a neatly folded paper bag from Livia's store. Her brand, she called it now. He stared at it longer than he meant to. The kitchen table was clean, eerily so. No birthday card. No cupcake with a candle. Not even a note. Just a yellow post, it stuck to the espresso machine. Gone shooting episode 2. Back after dinner. Don't forget to unplug the ring light. L. He read it twice. Shooting episode 2. The slow, aching realization crept in, like the cold you don't notice until your teeth chatter. Back in his office, he opened his browser, fingers shaky. YouTube autoplay loaded a familiar thumbnail. A week without toxic energy, family reset challenge, day 1. The video loaded. Bright background, warm lighting, and there they were. Livia, Delia, Sem sitting around the same kitchen table. Laughing, relaxed, framed like a magazine cover. Grayson wasn't there. Not even mentioned. Not once. On screen, Livia spoke brightly. This week we're trying something radical. Living without heaviness. Without tension. Without that weight some people bring. Delia added with a smile. He won't even notice we're gone. Grayson stared, breath caught mid-chest. Signal lost, he thought. Not from the internet. From them. The next morning, Grayson stood barefoot in the kitchen, watching the espresso machine stutter through its cycle like it resented the effort. Outside, frost clung to the window panes. Inside, warmth was strictly decorative, soft lighting, natural textures, every surface curated for Livia's lifestyle brand. He hadn't spoken to anyone since he watched the video. No one had come home the night before. No call. No update. Just a glowing comment thread that hadn't stopped growing. He brought the tablet to the kitchen table and opened the stream archive. There it was, nearly 3 hours of footage labeled Family Reset, Day 2. Clear air, clear minds. He tapped play. The screen flickered to life. A cozy lake cabin. Delia in a vintage knit sweater, speaking into the camera with performative serenity. A lot of you asked what it's like without him. Honestly, lighter. Like we can breathe. The comments scrolled below like whispers at a funeral. This is so brave. Wish my mom had done this when I was growing up. Toxic masculinity isn't always loud. The silence is abuse too. Grayson sat frozen, fingers tightening around his coffee mug. On screen, Livia and Sim took turns sharing how peaceful the atmosphere had become. The term emotional noise floated up repeatedly, like it had been rehearsed. They all wore matching sweatshirts. Coordinated. Smiling. Then came the moment that hit harder than the rest. Livia leaned in and said, "Sometimes presence can feel like absence, but heavier." Grayson doesn't yell. He doesn't hit. He just fills space. And we needed to reclaim ours. Sam added, not looking up from his phone. He wouldn't understand this anyway. He still uses a mousepad. Laughter. Easy. Cruel in its effortlessness. On the screen, a notification blinked. New comment. Can we get a day in the life without him? It's so inspiring. Grayson felt his face flush hot. He closed the tablet. Set it down slowly, as if it might detonate. This wasn't forgetting. This was rewriting. And the world was watching. He walked upstairs, half in a trance, and opened the linen closet. The birthday card he'd picked out for Livia last month, still there. He held it for a moment before tearing it cleanly down the middle. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. This wasn't his family anymore. They had made him a narrative. A foil. A villain with no lines. By noon the house felt like a showroom. Untouched, sterilized, waiting for clients who never arrived. Grayson stood at the window, watching a squirrel drag a half-eaten bagel across the icy patio. He wondered if even the wildlife here had stronger family ties than he did. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was curated, like the absence had been arranged for aesthetics. Everything in its place. Every light dimmed to just the right Instagrammable warmth. He checked the garage. Livia's car was gone. So was Delia's duffel bag and Sim's vintage camera case. No shoes by the door. No signs of life. Then he saw it. A note stuck to the refrigerator door. This time, not even in Livia's handwriting. Just a printed page taped lazily above the grocery list. Shooting new location content at Lake Iver. 3 days. Don't wait up. Team L&D. Grayson blinked. Team. He stood still for a long time, the buzz of the fridge ticking into his spine. Then, slowly, he walked to the living room and turned on the television. YouTube autoplay resumed where it had left off. A new video was cued. Family Reset, Day 3, Finding Joy in the Silence. He didn't flinch this time. The cabin again. Snow now. Fairy lights strung over pine beams. A fireplace flickering like a stock photo. The three of them were playing board games, drinking matcha, talking about healing. Delia was smiling, radiant in soft flannel. It's wild how calm things feel. Like we all exhaled at once. Sim replied, "You realize how heavy someone is when they're not around." On screen, a pop-up text floated mid-frame. Question, what does he think of this? Delia shrugged. He's probably fixing the router. Or himself. They laughed. Even Livia. Quiet, guilty laughter that still cut. Grayson sat on the couch. No expression. Just breath. He turned off the screen. Not paused. Off. Then he walked the house, room by room. In Delia's room, lavender body spray, fairy lights, nothing else. In Sam's, LED panels blinking in rhythm to nothing. A desktop monitor logged into a trading dashboard. Numbers flowing like blood. In Livia's studio, softbox lights, open shipping boxes, a wall calendar marked with hashtags and product drops. He was a ghost in his own home. Every space arranged around his absence. In the entryway mirror, he looked at himself. Still there. Still breathing. But digitally, emotionally, symbolically, family not found. Grayson didn't sleep that night. Not because of anger or even sadness. Those had cooled into something denser. A dull, ambient ache. He sat in the kitchen at 3:14 a.m., the glow of the microwave clock pulsing like a heartbeat. Outside, snow fell in soft spirals. Inside, only the faint tick of the house settling. He stirred honey into tea he didn't want, scrolling without purpose. Then his thumb hovered over the camera icon. A strange thought bloomed. He opened the app. Hit record. No face. Just countertop. His voice low and deliberate. What happens when your family edits you out, frame by frame, and calls it healing? He added the caption, Signal Ghost // day 0. No hashtags. No names. He hit post. It uploaded in 10 seconds. He turned off his phone and finally slept. On the couch, under a throw blanket that smelled faintly of Delia's perfume. At 6:42 a.m., he woke to a buzz. Then 2. Then 20. He opened the app. The video had gone viral. Comments flooded in. My dad was like this. Present, but ignored. You're not alone, man. I haven't heard from my daughter in 3 years. Painfully quiet. Like a scream in slow motion. This is the first time someone put it into words. One comment read simply, Thank you. Grayson blinked. Then read it again. The next night, he recorded another. This time, from the garage. Light bulb swinging. Sawdust in the air. His hands in frame, fixing a cracked stereo. They say silence is peaceful. But sometimes silence is prison bars with good lighting. He filmed only hands, objects, light, and shadow. The caption, Signal Ghost // repair log 001. 12 hours later, 100,000 views. He scrolled endlessly. Story replies, shares, duets. People weren't just watching. They were speaking. My husband's here, but we talk like co-workers. My mom stopped asking about me when I turned 30. Sometimes I feel like furniture with a heartbeat. Grayson sat in his dark office, bathed in blue light. His inbox was full. Requests for interviews, podcasts, panels. He ignored them all. He wasn't a brand. He wasn't building anything. He was uploading fragments. Broadcasting from absence. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. It was a signal. And people were listening. The front door creaked open on a Thursday evening, 3 days after the lake retreat. Grayson was in the kitchen, feeding cables through the back of an old stereo. He didn't turn around. Delia stepped in first, her sneakers wet with melted snow. Sam followed, lugging his laptop bag. Livia entered last, carefully balancing a tray of branded eco jars. Her face wore that familiar look. Calm on top, calculation beneath. Hey, Delia said, testing the air. Hi. Grayson replied, not looking up. They moved through the house like guests. No hugs. No questions. Just the low rustle of people trying not to wake something. Delia set a small pastry box on the counter. We brought you a muffin. From Wild Grain. It's fig and oat. Grayson nodded. Thanks. Livia stood near the doorway, hands resting on the handles of a recycled paper bag. "It's been a wild few days," she said, voice too chipper. "The lake content is performing better than anything we've done." Sem muttered, "We hit 500K. Grayson set down the wire cutters. "Congratulations." The room fell silent. He picked up the muffin box, opened it slowly, then gently set it aside. He didn't need it. That night, while the house dimmed around him, Grayson went upstairs. In his office, he pulled up the TikTok app. His fingers hovered, then tapped record. The frame was bare. He sat at the kitchen table, a single light above, the rest of the house swallowed in shadow. His voice, soft but precise. "They're back. No apology. Just numbers. I didn't yell. I didn't slam doors. I just watched. And this is what I saw. People trying not to be guilty. Just trying to keep filming." Caption: Signal Ghost // Day 4, Reboot. The video uploaded. In less than an hour, it hit 300,000 views. One comment rose to the top. "This isn't a man broken. This is a man rebooting." Another: "He's saying what so many of us can't." And then one more, from an anonymous user. "I saw my father in this. And I didn't call him. I'm calling now." Grayson stared at that one longest. He turned off the screen, leaned back, breathed deep. Downstairs, voices murmured behind closed doors. He heard Sem arguing in a Discord call. Delia recording an outro for a video. "Thanks for joining us on this journey toward peace." Livia's voice carried through a crack in the wall. "We can rebrand if needed." Grayson stood in the dark, alone but no longer erased. He didn't need rebranding. He was real, and the silence was his stage now. The following morning, Grayson opened the front door to find a woman in a long camel coat and heavy boots standing on his porch, holding 2 coffees and a messenger bag slung over her shoulder. "Clara Finch," she said, flashing a press badge. "I'm with Perspective Daily. I think we both know why I'm here." He hesitated, studying her eyes. Clear, steady. No influencer smirk. No faux empathy. "You're early," he said, stepping aside. "I'm always early," she replied, brushing snow from her collar as she walked in. Bad habit from interviewing people who back out. They sat at the kitchen table. She handed him a coffee, black, no sugar, and opened a leather notebook filled with tight, slanted handwriting. "Your videos," she began, "aren't viral because of drama. They're viral because they don't blink. You're not performing." "I'm not trying to," Grayson replied. She nodded, tapping her pen. "That's why people trust you." She didn't ask about Livia, or the kids, or the channel. She asked about silence, about space, about what it felt like to be framed out of your own life. He answered everything, plainly. No polish, no rage. After 2 hours, she packed up. Before leaving, she said, "This isn't a story about divorce or parenting. This is about visibility. You're not the problem, Mr. Crowley. You're the mirror." 2 days later, her piece went live. Title: "The Man Who Was Edited Out. How One Father Became a Mirror for the Invisible." It exploded. Twitter threads, think pieces, duets from therapists, endorsements from authors, an op-ed from a retired school principal titled, "Why My Students Don't Know Their Fathers." On Grayson's page, a new flood of comments. "This man is saying everything I never dared admit." "The silence in his house sounds like mine." "We don't need more noise. We need people who felt it." "My husband cried. First time in years." One caught his breath. "Dad, if you're reading this, I see you now." Grayson sat alone, bathed in the blue light of the screen, and let it in. The next video wasn't from the kitchen. It was the garage again. Cold breath in the air, the faint hum of a power drill. A single bulb lit the room. He spoke directly into the camera, face visible this time. I didn't break anything. I didn't scream. I didn't vanish. I was quiet. And that, apparently, was enough for them to call me a shadow. Caption: Signal Ghost // day 6. Viral code. He paused before hitting upload. He knew what would come. This time he welcomed it. He was no longer buffering. He was broadcasting. Livia exploded on livestream. It happened during a Q&A, shot in her studio with hanging ferns and reclaimed wood shelves behind her. Grayson wasn't watching live, but a clip surfaced within minutes, screen recorded, stitched, captioned in neon font TikTok edits. She sat perfectly lit, flawless in beige cashmere, and clenched a mug that red breathed deep like it was a weapon. "It's manipulation," she said, her smile taut, breath shallow. "That man sits in shadows, says nothing for years, and now suddenly, he's some patron saint of emotional neglect." Comments flew in real time, bouncing in frantic rhythm. Girls cracking. "We were rooting for you. You literally made a show without him. He never spoke, and now you're mad he finally did?" Delia tried to smooth it over in her stories. "Guys, please. My mom's just overwhelmed. She didn't mean harm." Sem went quiet. His Discord chat leaked screenshots later. Someone asked him, "You good, bro?" And he replied, "It's all content now." Even silence. Grayson didn't reply to any of it. Not online. Not at home. But that night, when the house dimmed again into its usual, curated hush, he did something different. At dinner, he spoke. "Did you know," he began, "that I watched you all leave before you actually walked out?" They froze. Delia set down her fork. Sem glanced at his phone. Livia stiffened. "You stopped asking. You stopped sharing. You stopped seeing me." Livia's voice cracked, trying to keep tone neutral. "Grayson, this isn't the place." "This is exactly the place," he said. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, opened the clip of her live stream, set it on the table, played it. Her words echoed in real time. "That man sits in shadows. Emotional neglect. Patron saint." Then he hit pause. Silence. "I'm not your villain," he said. "I'm just not your mascot either." No one spoke. He stood, took his plate, and walked into the kitchen. The faucet hummed. Dishes clinked. He didn't slam anything. He didn't need to. The cold front had arrived, not with rage, but with precision. And the temperature in that house dropped 10 degrees. The next morning, snow blanketed the street like a reset button. Clean, untouched. Grayson stood at the window, sipping coffee, watching as a neighbor scraped ice from their windshield, unaware of the world shifting 2 doors down. He hadn't posted in 2 days. Not out of fear, but strategy. He needed clarity. In the garage, he found it. The space smelled like pine dust and metal. He turned on the old space heater. The hum filled the silence. Light from the grimy windows spilled in across the workbench where a cracked photograph sat. Delia as a toddler, on his shoulders, laughing. Pre-brand. Pre-filters. He set up the tripod. Framed the shot. A single bulb overhead. The camera didn't blink. He hit record. People say silence is peaceful, but sometimes it's a padded cell lined with its fine. He paused, breathing in the still air. When your presence is only missed when it's needed, you're not family. You're infrastructure. No caption this time. Just signal ghost / day 7. He posted. Then he went for a walk. 3 blocks down, past the corner church, He ducked into a small cafe. Low ceilings, cracked tile, real conversations. At the register, a voice behind him. "Excuse me, are you the guy from the garage videos?" He turned. A woman in her 50s, scarf loose around her neck, holding a to-go cup with chipped nails. "My brother hasn't talked to our dad in 20 years, she said. "But after watching you, he called him." Grayson nodded, unsure what to say. "Just keep going," she added, then walked out. When he returned home, his phone buzzed nonstop. The video had exploded. On Twitter, a new hashtag trended, #visible again. On TikTok, therapists began stitching his monologue. On YouTube, a compilation appeared titled Signal Ghost's 10 Most Human Moments. And in the comments, another pulse. "We need a space. A real one. Not just videos. Where do we go from here?" Grayson didn't reply. Instead, he sent a message. "To Clara. Let's build something." She replied in seconds. "Already started." Attached, a mock-up of a website. Minimalist. Stark. The name in white on black. thesilenthouse.org. Grayson stared at the screen, heart beating steady. He'd spent months waiting for someone to knock. Now he was building the door. The Silent House launched quietly. No promo. No campaign. Just a single link posted on Grayson's profile with the words, "Not everything broken is meant to be fixed, but everything broken deserves to be seen." Within 12 hours, the site crashed from traffic. Clara worked out of her studio apartment in Bucktown, fingers flying across the keyboard as she messaged. "We're at 80,000 users. Forums, journals, story threads. It's bigger than we expected." Grayson wasn't surprised. He'd been reading the messages. Anonymous posts. Pain in clean text. "My mom divorced my dad and made him the villain. I believed her. I was 12. I live in my own house and still feel like a guest." He never yelled. That's what made it easy to ignore him. He read every one. No blinking. No scrolling past. Delia knocked on his door that evening. She stood with her phone in one hand, the other tugging her sweatshirt sleeve. Her makeup was half worn, like she'd cried and tried to hide it. "Dad," she said, "can I talk?" He stepped aside. She sat on the edge of his old recliner, back straight like she was on camera, then collapsed into herself. "I watched the newest video," she began, "and I read the site." Grayson waited. Her voice broke. "You never yelled at me. Not once. And I used that silence like a weapon. I made you easy to cut out." He sat across from her. "Still, I thought you didn't care," she whispered. "But I think you were just trying not to break anything." He leaned forward. "I didn't want to be a ghost in your life, but I also didn't want to be a wall." Delia's eyes brimmed. "I'm sorry." He reached across the coffee table, not for drama, not for closure, just her hand. And she gave it. Later that night, he posted a photo. Not of her, not of him, just two hands, one old, one young, resting over a cracked leather chair. Caption: Signal Ghost // link repaired. No hashtags. No audio. Just presence. Comments poured in. "That image says more than 10 monologues. I called my daughter after 10 years. She answered. This man is building bridges one frame at a time." In his inbox, a message from a high school principal. "We're using your site in a class on media ethics. Kids need to know the cost of cutting people out." Grayson forwarded the message to Clara with 2 words. "It's working." Her reply: "This isn't a movement anymore. It's a signal tower." The invitation came in a thick, white envelope, hand-delivered. Inside, a formal letter from the Evanston City Council. Title in bold serif. Public Forum. The Digital Family and Emotional Erasure. Featuring Signal Ghost, Grayson Crowley, Livia Crowley, Delia Crowley. He read it twice before setting it down. Then read it again. Delia found him on the porch that evening. The sun was bleeding behind the houses, casting long shadows. I said yes, she said, hands in the pockets of her coat. So did Mom. Grayson nodded. And you? She bit her lip. I want people to know the truth. Not just yours. Not just hers. Ours. The forum was scheduled in the old library auditorium, velvet curtains, wood paneling, dim lights. The room filled fast. Students, parents, counselors. A few influencers. A few skeptics. Phones ready, cameras rolling. Clara was there too, sitting in the front row, notepad in hand. On stage, 4 chairs. Livia entered first, wearing a deep navy blazer, posture perfect, mask intact. Delia followed, subdued but present. Grayson stepped in last, greeted by a quiet hum in the crowd. Not applause, not gasps, just the weight of expectation. The moderator, a social psychologist with thin glasses and a practiced calm, welcomed them. Then came the first question. To each of you, what is presence? Livia spoke first. Her voice was fluid, rehearsed. Presence is participation, engagement, eye contact, conversations. Delia's turn. Presence is noticing someone before they have to remind you they exist. Then the moderator looked at Grayson. And for you. He looked at the crowd, then at his family. Presence, he said slowly, is not a performance. It's the right to remain visible when you're not speaking. A hush fell across the room. The psychologist continued. Mr. Crowley, what do you want from your family now? He considered the weight of the question. The framing. I don't want a rebrand, he said. I don't want reconciliation for the cameras. I want us to live in the same truth, even if it's a quiet one. From the back, someone whispered audibly, God, that hit. Delia took his hand under the table. Livia sat motionless. The moderator shifted. Last question. To all 3 of you. What have you learned? Livia looked straight ahead. Silence is not the same as safety. Delia whispered. Editing people out doesn't erase them. It just makes the whole louder. Grayson closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them. I've learned, he said, that if you don't speak your own truth, someone will dub their voice over yours. The crowd didn't erupt. It inhaled. A single tear slipped down Clara's cheek in the front row, and the cameras stayed steady. But the silence? It finally listened. The public forum changed something. Not everything, but enough. Articles trickled out the next morning. The Chicago Chronicle ran with the headline, Father Reboots, the voice behind the silence speaks. Bloggers quoted Grayson's words. Therapy groups referenced the panel. The Silent House added 30,000 new users overnight. But change didn't start online. It started in Grayson's kitchen. He sat at the table with his laptop open, a stack of bills beside him. Steam curled up from his coffee mug. He wasn't a viral voice here. Just a man balancing the numbers of a life fractured and slowly reconstructing. He opened the bank portal, transferred funds, set a new savings schedule, paid tuition directly to Delia's college, marked the envelope. When Livia entered the room in leggings and a faded sweatshirt, hair pulled back, no makeup, he didn't flinch. She looked tired, smaller. You're up early, she said. I'm updating the systems, he replied without looking. She poured herself water, stood across from him. You don't have to take it all on yourself. He met her eyes for the first time that morning. No, I don't. And I won't. A pause. She set down the glass. I've moved most of my things into the guest room. I figured that was overdue. Grayson nodded. Thanks. The moment lingered. Not bitter. Not warm. Just real. Later that day, he changed the locks. Not with vengeance, just with clarity. He handed Livia a new key. When you're ready to use it. She accepted it wordlessly. Sem wandered into the kitchen as Grayson reset the Wi-Fi password. What's with all the changes? He asked. Grayson typed the new code, Julian 40. He didn't answer Sem's question, just handed him the sticky note with the password. You want access? Grayson said. You start by logging in the right way. Sem didn't argue. Delia helped that afternoon. She brought him tools in the garage, held cables as he reorganized the old stereo stack. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. Later, she brought him coffee without being asked. No filters. No story attached. Just a cup and a smile that wasn't performative. Upstairs, Livia stood in the hallway, watching. She didn't interrupt. When Grayson passed her on the way to the laundry, she said softly, "This isn't you, you know." He stopped. "No," he said. "It's the me you didn't notice." That night, the house was still, quiet, but no longer silent. And for the first time in months, the quiet felt earned. The next break didn't come from the internet. It came in an envelope. Thick, cream-colored, sealed tight. Grayson found it wedged in the mailbox between grocery flyers and an overdue reminder from the water department. He recognized the legal tone before even opening it. Inside, a notice of intent to initiate limited legal separation. Filed by Livia. No divorce. Not yet. But a formal request for financial and emotional boundaries. Grayson stood in the driveway, paper trembling in his hand, the winter air slicing at his wrists. The lines of legality were cold, deliberate, like ink poured into scar tissue. Back inside, he dropped the envelope on the kitchen table. Delia glanced up from her laptop. "What's that?" He didn't answer. Instead, he went to his office, opened his drawer, pulled out a response he'd been drafting for days. A formal rebuttal, a list of demands, screenshots, account access, the password to the business TikTok account. Everything he could weaponize if he wanted to make it ugly. He read it once, then again, and then quietly tore it in half. That evening, he sent Clara a message. "I don't want to fight, but I won't be erased again." She replied immediately. "Then don't fight." Led. The next morning, in court, he wore gray and silence. Livia's attorney opened with soft tones. "This is not an act of hostility. My client simply wishes to draw boundaries, protect her digital identity, business likeness, and narrative from distortion." The judge, a woman with iron gray hair and calm eyes, turned to Grayson. "Mr. Crowley, do you contest?" Grayson stood, cleared his throat. "I do not. I withdraw usage of all names, images, and content that involve their likeness, past or future." A pause. Then, "But I reserve the right to keep my voice." The courtroom held still. "I'm not here to reshape the story, just to tell mine." The judge nodded. Request granted. Outside, cameras waited. Not paparazzi, just truth-hungry eyes. He walked past them without speaking. That night, Delia found him in the garage. The space smelled of oil and pine dust, warm from a single hanging bulb. She handed him a box. Inside, a set of printed photographs. Old ones. Real ones. Birthday parties. Road trips. Her with a gap-toothed grin. Sem asleep on his chest. Livia laughing in a moment too unguarded for marketing. "I thought you should have these," Delia said. Before it all got edited. Grayson sifted through the images slowly. Each one was a fragment. But together, they told a real story. 1 week later, Grayson logged into TikTok and typed a message he never expected to write. Taking a step back, not logging off, just changing the light bulb. He didn't post a video. No monologue. No shot of the garage or his hands or the cracked leather chair. He just let the silence post itself. The next morning, a wave of stitched videos followed. Faces he didn't know. Voices reading his captions aloud. People sitting in kitchens, garages, passenger seats, repeating his words like mantras. Presence is not a performance. If you don't speak your truth, someone will dub their voice over it. I'm not your villain. I'm not your mascot either. The reach had become a chorus. But Grayson didn't watch. Instead, he spent the morning reprogramming the old stereo system with Sem. They sat side by side in the living room, quiet, soldering wires while a Miles Davis LP spun in slow, dusty rotations. Sem didn't look up for 20 minutes. Then, I deleted my crypto wallet. Grayson raised an eyebrow. Sem shrugged. Didn't feel like a future anymore. Later, while sorting wires in the cabinet, Grayson found a birthday card. One he'd written to Livia 3 years ago and never gave. The envelope had yellowed. The ink was smudged. He opened it anyway. Inside, it read, "We built something together. I hope it lasts longer than the silence." He folded it once and set it back where he found it. Delia came down the stairs that afternoon with a heavy book under her arm. I found Mom's old writing journals. From before all the brand stuff. She opened one. Inside, real handwriting. Doodles. Ink stains. Emotion. She used to write poems, Delia said. Weird, vulnerable stuff. Not for posting. Grayson nodded. I remember. That night, Livia came home late. No makeup. No curated outfit. She stepped into the living room and stopped when she saw them. Father, daughter, son. No camera. Didn't expect everyone here, she said. We live here, Delia replied gently. Livia stayed quiet. Grayson stood. Do you want anything? She shook her head. I just wanted to see if the house still felt like mine. Grayson didn't flinch. It never stopped being yours. But it's not only yours. She nodded, eyes damp, and turned away. Her shadow passed along the hallway wall, stretching thin. Later, Grayson sat alone in the dark. The stereo hummed. The room glowed warm. No buzz. No cameras. Just a dimmed screen. And a man, still visible in the flicker of vinyl and filament. The silenthouse.org had outgrown itself. What began as a placeholder for confessionals had become a living structure. A digital home built brick by brick from memory, absence, and quiet courage. The site now hosted community rooms, mentorship forums, moderated story circles. Grayson never made himself the center. He appeared in small ways. Comments of encouragement, curated playlists for late-night browsing, hand-scanned scans of analog photographs under a section labeled Before the Filter. On the homepage sat a quote from his first post. Not everything broken needs fixing, but everything broken deserves to be seen. Delia helped run the site's youth branch, a sub-forum called Echoes. She moderated posts from teenagers estranged from parents, and from those just beginning to realize they'd become the silencers, not the silenced. Sem launched a sub-project, Budgeting for Ghosts, a raw, plain-spoken guide to surviving in a gig economy when your family isn't part of the equation anymore. His posts read like text you'd send a brother who hadn't called in months. Even Livia returned to the platform, anonymously at first, then under her name. Not to sell, not to reframe, but to write. Essays. Stories. One post titled, The Women Who Forgot Their Husbands Before They Left, was shared 40,000 times in its first day. She never asked for validation, and no one asked her to apologize. It wasn't about that anymore. It was about telling the truth from wherever you were standing. Grayson didn't post daily now. Sometimes a week would pass in silence. But when he did return, it was never for reaction. It was to mark something. One foggy morning, he uploaded a new entry. Just a photograph. His front door, cracked open, sunlight spilling across a welcome mat worn at the corners. Caption: doors can stay closed, or they can wait. Either way, they remember the way in. Later that day, a teacher from Vermont messaged the admin inbox. We're adding the silent house to our curriculum on digital empathy. These aren't just stories. They're architecture. Grayson read the message while sitting at the edge of the porch, sipping coffee, knees aching from crouching too long in the garage. He looked out over the quiet street, the same one that had felt like exile not long ago, and saw something else now. Not escape, not noise, but space. To remain, to rebuild, to speak without being translated, and to hear others answer back. Grayson woke up before the sun. No alarm, no streaming schedule, just the natural pull of morning through the blinds. The room was dim, quiet. Not the sterile quiet of old, but the kind that holds warmth in its hands. It was his birthday. No one had mentioned it yet. He didn't expect them to. Downstairs, the house breathed softly. The stereo in the living room emitted a low, analog hum. Sim must have left it playing overnight. Coffee brewed with a slow, percussive rhythm. On the kitchen table sat a box. Small. No bow. A single sticky note on top. We didn't film this. D and S. Grayson smiled. Inside, a homemade cake, slightly lopsided. Chocolate with crumbling frosting along one edge. A single candle was stuck off-center, leaning like it wasn't sure it belonged. He stood still for a moment, taking it in. Not performative. Not packaged. Present. The front door creaked. Delia appeared, hair in a loose braid, sweatshirt sleeves tugged over her hands. Happy birthday, Dad. He nodded, voice caught behind gratitude. Sem followed, hoodie up, yawning. Hope you don't mind we used the oven. Grayson cleared his throat. Did you make this? Delia grinned. From a box. But we added real vanilla. Sem cracked the eggs. He turned to his son. Sem shrugged. I YouTubed it. Like 20 minutes. They all laughed. Grayson lit the candle. Watched the flames sway gently, like it too was unsure how to behave in peace. He didn't make a wish. He didn't need one. They ate at the counter, standing, sharing forks and stories. At one point, Delia pulled out her phone. No pictures, Grayson said, half joking. She smiled. Wasn't gonna. Just wanted to read you something. She opened her notes and read aloud. Best dad ever. Not because he fixed things, but because he let us try fixing ourselves. Grayson blinked slowly. Not tears. Just moisture trying to be honest. Later, when the kids had gone upstairs, he sat on the porch. Mug in hand. Blanket across his knees. Morning light spilled across the lawn. A couple walked their dog. A neighbor waved from behind a rake. Normal life resumed all around him, and this time, he felt part of it. He opened his phone. One message waited from Pete, his old coworker. Saw your status change. You good, man? Grayson typed back. Yeah, better than good. He set the phone down. Watched a pair of birds land on the power line. The porch creaked beneath him, but it held. Spring arrived without fanfare. No dramatic melt. No sudden bloom. Just the slow, invisible thaw of things coming alive again. Grayson stood on the train platform at the edge of town, breath visible in the crisp morning air. In one hand, a black camera bag. In the other, a coffee he didn't remember buying. The digital display flickered. Portland, 7:14 on time. He checked his phone. A single unread message from Clara. Gallery confirmed. Your piece will close the exhibit. Spotlight track. Final wall. He smiled faintly. Inside the bag, the exhibit's contribution, titled simply Signal Light. A looping installation. No sound. No actors. Just 7 minutes of home. A cracked birthday candle flickering. 2 hands repairing an old stereo. A backlit silhouette leaving a room quietly. The moment a man's voice speaks from the dark and the screen doesn't cut away. It wasn't about him. It was about the frame finally holding someone who'd always been in it. The train pulled in, sighing steam onto the platform. Grayson boarded, slid into a window seat. The sun was rising behind him now, slicing lines of orange through the haze. He rested the bag in his lap and pulled out an old Polaroid camera, the same one he'd nearly thrown away the year before. He snapped a picture of the window, not outside, inside, his own reflection, still here, visible. The film developed slowly, shaking itself into shape as the train pulled away. His phone buzzed once more. Delia, let us know when you land. Sam wants to help hang the piece. He replied, will do. Don't forget the muffin this time. Then, another message. Unexpected. Livia, just 1 sentence. You were never invisible. I just stopped adjusting the focus. He didn't reply. He didn't need to. He slid the Polaroid into the back of his notebook, pressed it flat, looked forward, and as the countryside blurred past, something inside him stopped chasing silence and began welcoming stillness. The installation would speak for itself, and he would remain in the frame, not center stage, not cropped out, present. The signal wasn't lost. It was light, and it was finally on. Some absences echo louder than any presence, but others, like his, become foundations. Grayson learned that silence isn't the enemy. It's the waiting room for truth, a space where bruises breathe and people choose what to carry forward. His family didn't return to what they were. They couldn't. Too much had cracked, stretched, shifted. But in those fault lines, something else grew, an awareness, a rhythm, a kind of honesty that only reveals itself after the noise dies down. He no longer lived to be seen. He lived to see. The porch light stayed on, not for guests, but as proof. This place still held warmth. The house wasn't perfect. It never had been, but it was real now. And that, finally, was enough. We spend so much time fighting to be heard that we forget the power of simply being present, of taking up space without apology, of drawing breath and saying, without sound, I exist and I remain. Because visibility isn't granted, it's claimed. And once you claim it, no one can edit you out again.